me change this. Okay. All right. I don't have a gavel or anything. I'm gonna go like this. Everybody call the meeting to order. But we're not ordering anybody, so don't worry about it. I'd like to welcome everybody tonight to the March El Dorado Hills Area Planning Advisory Committee meeting. I'm the chair, John Davey, vice chair, Tim White, secretary, where are you, Bob? Williams. I'm looking for John Raslier online because he said he might be virtual tonight, but we should all start the meeting by remembering it is John's birthday today. That's why he's not here. So,
for John.
Mr. Raslier. And then I'm looking for, I don't see our other vice chair, Brooke. I'm looking. Well, anyway, at any rate, I'm on the wrong screen, by the way. So we're getting the meeting underway. We're a week late, later than normal. We're in the, normally the beginning of the month. We begin the meeting by calling everything to order, which we just did. We adopt our meeting agenda if there are no objections from officers. Gentlemen's here. Okay, so moving right ahead. The very first thing we do in our meetings is we provide an opportunity for public comment for anything that we're not going to talk about tonight. So if there's something that's not on our agenda that the public would like to make a comment, ask a question, we don't know if we have the answers. We'll try. And but what we would ask everybody here in the room tonight, if you're going to speak, there are these microphones floating around on the desk. If you press the button, they turn green and just leave it green. That means people can hear you. We have a challenge. These microphones are not for the room. They're just for the Zoom audience that are watching virtually. And we've got about 25 or 26 people in right now. So if you're going to speak, grab one of these. We have a handheld that we can probably run out back to you if you need it. So we're starting tonight in the room. Are there any public comments for things that are not on our agenda tonight? Yes. Tangentially, it's in our standing committee reports. They have some updates we can provide. We'll get to it. There'll be plenty to talk about. So that's it. So there's nobody in the room with the public comment for things that are not on our agenda. I'm looking, there's one hand up. Let's see, Robert. You can go ahead and unmute Robert and we would be able to hear you in the room.
Hi, my name's Roberta Chisholm.
It's Roberta, sorry.
It's all right. I live in Heritage and I wanted to make a public comment against the Gateway project. And I happen to live within a mile range of this Gateway project. And I'm very concerned about the potential traffic, the noise, how it's going to affect my neighborhood, the surrounding neighborhood, Latrobe, White Rock, Carson Crossing, with a potential of 2,500 trips per day between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. That's 105 vehicles every hour just from this one project. With the increased homes that are being built around here, the John Adams School, the elementary schools that are around here, the traffic in the morning. I commute to Sacramento every day, and between 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning, getting onto Latrobe is very difficult right now. It takes me 15 minutes just to get onto the freeway. And with this increase of traffic, it will probably take me 25 minutes or more just to get on the freeway. I don't think anybody's really looking at the effect of the transportation in this area, both by noise, pollution, how it's going to affect the timing between the stoplights, how it's going to affect the congestion for people bringing their kids to and from school, potentially having 3 fast food restaurants right next to the Tractor Supply place. Yes, I understand there's supposed to be a roundabout there. I don't think that's going to be the solution. I think we really need to start looking at limiting the number of e-commerce and transportation that's going on in our area. And I'm very concerned about this. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, Roberta. We are sort of talking about Gateway later tonight in our standing committee updates. They have some information they want to share of the research that they've done. But there's not an official project for other parts of Gateway. And of course, we'll review those when they become real. So moving along, is there any other public comment online or in the room? Do you have a microphone so that they can hear you online? Yvonne? If it's green, you can talk. Not on our agenda because it's not a project, but we will, our standing committees have some updates they want to share. And we have a document from the planning department.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks. I don't know how to use this.
So that's fine.
In addition to Roberta's comments, which I 100% agree with, I'm concerned about the traffic that's going to be going across Carson Crossing. Carson Crossing is already very close to the houses that border Carson Crossing. If we have big trucks, which I suspect are going to be tractor trailers, that's going to just be a nightmare for us to cross the street from one part of Heritage 55 and older to the other part. So that's a major concern with me. It's already a nightmare to get across with the stop signs because most people don't even stop. So when we have tractor trailers to contend with, I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't think it's going to be good.
A lot of
Thank you.
people have commented on that. We appreciate you bringing that up. We'll address a little bit of that tonight when we get to it. So if there's any other comments on our agenda? Lenny, do you have a microphone nearby? We got to hear you online, Lenny.
Thank you, sir.
Not real if nobody can hear you.
My name is Lenny Patani. I live in Crescent Hills and El Dorado Hills. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Supervisor Turnbull for re-election. Congratulations, sir. We appreciate all the hard work you do. And second of all, I'd like to just give John an update. I came here about 3 or 4 months ago. There's a section of El Dorado Hills Boulevard, just north of west side of El Dorado Hills Boulevard, just north of Woody, and then it goes south to roughly Olson. There are county roads, took down trees 3 or 4 years ago. They have been left there. Now people have thrown their Christmas trees there. It's a disgrace, and it probably would take a crew about 4 hours with a chipper to clean it up. But my biggest concern is I have been calling now for 2 years, and they say, yeah, we don't know when we're going to get around to it. I called 2 weeks ago, and the gentleman at County Road said, yeah, it's going to be a while. And I asked, what is a while? 2 months, 2 weeks? He goes, no, we're talking years. So my question to you is, as a taxpayer, why do we have county roads if they can't even do a 4-6 hour cleanup? And I think it's frustrating that when a citizen calls county roads or whatever, department in the county, that they get the runaround. John, it's been 2 years now, and I asked for a supervisor. I want to meet a supervisor out there. It's really bad, and I feel like County Roads isn't doing El Dorado Hills any favors. So that's my thing. But it's been 2 years now. I've been coming and telling you about this problem. And I believe El Dorado Hills should be a clean community. And that's ridiculous for a quarter-mile stretch to have Christmas trees and all kinds of junk there. So you can call them again, but they don't seem to be impressed with anything when a citizen calls. It's very frustrating. Thank you.
Lenny, I guess it's working. Yeah,
Green,
okay.
it's working.
I appreciate your comments, and all I can tell you is I always inform DOT of the reports that I take. There was a recent report, not from you, but from another individual in El Dorado Hills who made the same kind of complaint. I referred that to our Director of Transportation, who's here tonight, Rafael Martinez, and he's got an update in terms of what the plans are from the standpoint of moving from the winter road maintenance, snow plowing, and all that stuff into cleanup related to vegetation management, stuff on the side of the road. And it's coming, he tells me, in a couple of months. So I'm going to let him speak to that later. But we're not deaf ears. We try to do the best we can, but there are a lot of priorities in the county and we're understaffed in DOT compared to the needs. That's the bottom line. So I'll let him explain that later, but I always listen and I always transfer that information, but I can't dictate something to happen that's beyond my control. So anyway, I'm trying.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. 2 years is a long time to be complaining about something.
Agreed.
Thank you, Lenny. All right, well then moving along, we're done with our public comment. The thing we like to remind everybody after we do our public comment is that, you know, if you live in El Dorado Hills, you're a member of APAC. If you want to become a voting member of APAC, you volunteer to work on a project review, a subcommittee, or standing committees. And then APAC members will help you learn about the processes and the steps that we use. And it's entirely possible you have a better process or better steps than we have in place now. So we would welcome anybody who wants to participate. Our email addresses are on the agenda. It's also on our website, edhapac.org. So with that said,
Let me get that.
oh,
We have about 15 voting members in APAC with a community of 50,000 people. Now, let's take away kids. So maybe it's 40 or 35,000 people. We need more of you in this audience to get involved with APAC. You cannot rely on 15 people. Some of them, like John and myself, have been doing it for 10 or 12 years now. And we've had people who've moved away, passed on, or whatever. We need more of you to step up and join us in APAC. We will guide you through the process. There's a lot of people who know a lot of stuff, but we want new people. We need people who have new, as John said, we need new ideas, new ways of looking at things, because you cannot expect the same 10 or 15 to look at the same projects over and over again. And quite frankly, we're going to age out or term out or move away. And we need a new generation of people to step up so that the APAC can continue its 40-year involvement of making major contributions to El Dorado Hills through county planning and the board of supervisors. But we need a new generation of people to get involved and start working with us. So please, I know you can't always depend on the same people to do it, but we need you to step up. Please think about it. Come talk to us after the meeting and we can get you started. Thank you. Yeah.
that was pretty good. Oh. Yeah.
It kind of depends on what the project is. For example, all right, if it's a big project, like some of these ones that this Generations we're gonna discuss later tonight. Generations has to, the county in Generations, present a draft environmental impact report. These draft environmental impact reports can be usually at a minimum 150 pages. We've seen some at the El Dorado Hills Pacific Plan was over 1,000 pages or more. We get 45 days by law to review them. So there is a time commitment when you have 45 days, but there's 13 things that are addressed in environmental impact report. Traffic, biology, there's the standard things. We try to break it down so that maybe 2 or 3 people only focus on the one area where they're interested in, and then we put it all together. So the time commitment for that would maybe be 5 to 8 hours. Yeah. And
You
so,
know, I got something I want to say.
Yeah, George.
We just signed a contract with Tribe Fire to do brush mitigation. And I'll work it with John and then Raphael and see if we can get them out there, because we are understaffed with the county, especially when it comes to help. You know, a lot of people, you know, they get employed by the county and then they leave for a higher paying job.
Testing one.
So what we can do is work with John and Raphael and see what we can do about getting Tribe Fire out, Lenny, to clean that mess up. See what we can do. Okay.
And so as far as the time commitment, yeah, it depends on what we're looking at. If it's a small project that you're interested in, and then you can keep contributing in small bites, I honestly say as much or as little as you can do. We'll take it. I know John Richards on here, and he was our subcommittee chair for Central El Dorado Hills. And he and I were in the Google document that ended up being 70-something pages. Sorry. And sorry, staff. But between the two of us, just in that document, we're probably over 100 hours in like a month, 2 months. So that was very focused. There are other projects where it's like Tim said, if you're gonna look at one part of it, it might just be 2 hours. And then touching base with other members. And we do a lot through email. So we're not appointed by the Board of Supervisors. We're a volunteer committee. We try to adhere to the Brown Act in terms of how we post an agenda. We try not to discuss too much outside, but when we're doing our reviews, we work collaboratively through email and shared documents. So, and there's several here tonight that know how we do it, and they'd be willing to help you learn like how, and like I said, you might have a better process for it. So.
Even be more specific, John, if I could
yeah,
offer, I think you'll give an example of 2 standing committees, and some of the members here are here tonight also and online, but the 2 chairs of the environmental and transportation committees are right to my right here. They'll give you an idea of the kind of information they put together and how valuable that information can be in the whole process. And I'm sure I'm going to speak for you guys, just for a second. It's the only time I'm going to speak for you guys at all this night. Is honestly, is that they can use your help too. So if there's any element of what we're talking about, I'm sure they could use, for example, environmental. What you had, 4 or 5 different areas if you're tracking, George?
Yes, biology, air quality, noise, cultural resources. All of these things go into an EIR that have to be assessed. And so we look at those things and try to analyze, add our expertise to what's going on there. So yeah, we can use more help, particularly anybody that has a passion for it or any background in it. Come on board.
Awesome. Okay, well, that was a lot of APAC, sorry, Yang. But again, anybody wants to help out, reach out to email on our agenda or on our website. So moving forward, the next item on our agenda tonight, Supervisor Communications. We get an opportunity to hear from District 1 Supervisor Hydall, District 2 Supervisor Turnbull. Gentlemen, do you have a microphone there? One is first. I guess we'll go one. George, second again. Sorry. You'll be up next.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So the one thing I'd like to share is what happened at our Board of Supervisors meeting on Tuesday with respect to restructuring a committee that we've had that's been called CDAC for probably at least 10 years. CDAC stands for Community and Economic Development Advisory Council. Okay. So this microphone only works for the Zoom connection. So I will stand up and speak a little louder. All right, very good. So we restructured a committee that was called CDAC, Community and Economic Development Advisory Committee. And what we had found is during its course of the last 10 years, it had kind of gradually transitioned into a tactical type of operation where they were looking at very localized improvements to economic development. And from the board's perspective, that wasn't accomplishing the things that we had put into our strategic plan. We recently approved a brand new strategic plan as of the first of the year. And one of the elements of that strategic plan is called thriving economy. Because if we don't grow our economy and bring good businesses and good jobs to El Dorado County, we are going to become a recessionary type of county with services diminishing because we need that new revenue. We need those jobs. We need to employ our youth. So that's what the original intent was. In forming the new committee, it's now going to be called SEED, which stands for Strategic Economic Enhancement Development, or Strategic Enhancement Economic Development. So the emphasis is on strategic, not tactical. We've reformatted it to define a set of bylaws that define what kind of membership needs to be involved, the kinds of expertise, subject matter expertise, whatever you want to call that, that needs to be considered with appointing people to that committee. We've talked about 11 members. That's what's in the current bylaws, and the bylaws are not final, it's draft. We're going through some revisions, but we're trying to identify people who really understand economic development to a much larger degree than most of us do, to be able to contribute to a strategic plan defined specifically for economic development. So our thriving economy strategic plan at the county level would be a flow down into this economic development strategic plan. So that's the objectives over the course of probably the next year and beyond. So that reformatting, that restructuring, I think is very important to bring some new vitality to El Dorado County, to create some new job opportunities, and to move on with what I think is the normal progression and growth that we need to have. But we need to attract the right kind of businesses and high-paying jobs to the best of our ability. The business park is obviously a target for that area. Town center is pretty much fully occupied at this point. That's been a big success, but we need to continue that. There's been other projects that have been talked about that all fit into that same category, that they would contribute significantly to our economic development and jobs. So that's the one thing I wanted to share. Stay tuned. It's going to come back to the board probably in a couple of months in a more finalized format. And the board will review that set of bylaws and the actual ordinance that goes with it, and then make a determination. Yes, we're going to move forward. So we're now in the recruitment phase, so to speak, of finding the right talent to put on that committee. So that's what I want to share.
All right, thanks, John. George, you have a microphone near you?
I got one here. There's quite a bit of stuff going on, and thanks, John, for bringing that up, because this is going to be a good thing, especially for our county, especially economic development. And Kyle he's going to head that group up, because we can't let the group, overpower him. So Kyle's got to make sure that he steps up, and if they get a little bit crazy, make sure they stay in their place. One of the big issues that I had, there's some couple of developments in, and I met with the school district on the Trove, and they've got a lot of concerns. And the biggest issue down there, EID water, it's anywhere from 20 to 30 years before any EID pipeline or sewage or anything gets down to that area. That is a small school district. There's some developments that are going on. It's going to impact that school district. And the only way to get around it is they're going to have to build a new school. The problem is, when you're talking about Union Mine was built in 1999, it would cost $66 million. Today, it's probably 3 to 4 times that amount of money. So, are the developers going to step up and help? Because there is no money. There is no money out there, and it shouldn't be on the school district to be able to pay for it. That's going to increase enrollment to approximately anywhere from 2,155 students. That's an increase of 1,260%. That's a lot. It really is. So, and they don't want to be chopped up and put in Buckeye School District or take property away from them. They want to make sure that they're in the same district. So there's a big concern there, and I think everybody needs to be aware of it. They have 3 wells there. They have to test them every morning before school starts. And if it comes back negative, like arsenic or something like that into these wells, they have to bring drinking water in. So I'm working out a thing with Mike Sproul from the El Dorado County Food Bank to make sure that we have bottled water at all times in that school district. Because that's a big problem down there. It really is. Not only that, you got to understand that the roads in there are really narrow to that school. So it's going to impact it a lot. And it's a big concern, and I understand their concerns. So that's something that's going to be coming up pretty soon. Also today, I got the fact sheet from the Carson Creek Research Development Project.
Gateway. Yep.
Yeah, Gateway. Anyway, so I have it right here. So if anybody wants a copy of it, I'll make sure that I can, we can get you a copy. So make sure you email my office, whatever, make sure you get one. Okay?
Yeah, and we received that late today as
Yeah,
well.
you got it too. Yeah.
And thanks for everyone for sharing that. And we'll place a copy with our meeting recording and all our documents from this evening. We'll put a copy on the APAC website as well. I have it in a PDF format here. It's hard to read on this screen. So,
Yeah.
And it's not a paragraph or two. It's a long document. So, thank you, George, for sharing that.
Well, I got one more
you got
thing.
more?
One more thing I've been talking about. So I've been beat up a little bit on social media because I met with Sierra Institute. Anybody know what Sierra Institute is? It's basically, they developed a thing that was in Plumas County after the creek fire that went through there and wiped out that particular town. And the Sierra Institute has built a biomass facility up there that actually runs a county facility building up there. They've done a great job, but not only that, it creates a lot of jobs. So there's a lot of students are working up there. They're getting paid anywhere from $20 to $35 an hour, depending on their expertise. So it's great involved, especially our kids, especially in our county. And we can put them to work out there, working with this Sierra Institute. Now, there's been all kinds of stuff that's going on. First off, they said I was a nuclear plant going in, a mobile nuclear plant, to all kinds of crazy things have been going on. So anyway, clarify, it's a biomass facility. It's a vision that I have to bring a small portable mill that the Title 25 that I produced, especially for the residents in Grizzly Flat, to help them rebuild. It's not a huge mill like everybody thinks it is. And this biomass facility does not put out any noise. It's in a building and you can't even hear it run. And that's one of the other big things. And with the smoke, this thing burns so hot, it produces steam. That steam is actually used to heat that big building, but also it puts out electricity too. It'd be a great thing. We got to do something in our county because with everything coming down the pipe with CARB, you're not going to be able to burn no more yard burning, period. It's coming. They're taking away all your gasoline generators. That's gone. You'll have to have solar generators. That's coming down the pipe too. But not only that, it even says, CAL FIRE says, any of your green waste, you have to haul it to a biomass facility to get it burned. The nearest one is in Lincoln. That's a long ways away. So who's going to pay for it? So we need to start thinking outside the box to make sure that we get one in our county so we don't have to do that. So anyway, that's some of the things that I'm working on. I think it'll be a great thing in Grizzly because that's where it was impacted, the fire. And there's a lot of debris that has to be done, burned up or taken care of. Okay, that's it.
Are there any questions for the supervisors based on their comments tonight? Do you have a microphone back there? Let me pass the microphone to the back.
Yeah, George, thanks for that info on that biomass facility. That's a great idea. And just hearing about it initially, so that's the intent of that in Grizzly Flat is to capture some of the debris that's from the burn. And does that turn it into energy? Is that what
Yeah,
that does?
so I can speak on that. Yeah, exactly. And that's what it's going to help. It's going to help the new community center that's going to be built out there.
Mhm.
It's going to help the post office. It's going to be help the Forest Service. They got a new facility that's going to be built, so it'll help them. There's a lot of things that's going to be benefit. Not only that, with a small microgrid, it'll actually, with the blackouts that are out in there, especially with PG&E and Grizzly Flat, it's notorious. They'll be on. It'll be able to supply electricity to a lot of the residents out in Grizzly Flat. So it could be a real great thing. And it's a vision I have. I always think outside the box. So we got to do what we got to do to be able to, be sufficient in this county because the future's coming. It really is.
You have a microphone? Are you green?
Yes, it's great.
Awesome.
Thank you for taking my comments. I think this is more directed at yourself. I'm a businessman and I love jobs and I love taking care of our kids or adults or whomever that wants to work for a living. The only thing I don't like is what has happened everywhere I've lived in, which is Bay Area and then Folsom and then El Dorado Hills. There's got to be a balance between adding jobs and destroying the lifestyle and the way of living that we have in El Dorado Hills. Folsom, when I moved into it in 1999, had 28,000 population. Today, it's probably over 100,000 at least. It has helped nothing. The environmental impact has been horrendous. The security through the police department, there are 30 people short with all the tax money that they've gotten. Nothing has gotten better. Everything has gotten worse by adding more jobs, more apartments, more housing, more this, more that, and the other. The beauty of El Dorado County is that it's still on tap for the most part. I mean, it has increased a lot, even 8 years that I've been here. And if we don't control it, I got to keep going east and I'm going to end up in Nevada and I don't want to do that. So we appreciate you all just keeping that in mind. There's got to be a balance, and we as older people are not looking for more tax revenues, more jobs, more crowded shopping centers, more crowded roads, or the pollution and everything else that goes with it. Thank you.
Primarily emphasizing is the kinds of businesses that are going to grow the economy substantially, provide to technology, and basically provide recognition of what's going on in the greater Sacramento area. I do understand transportation impacts, road congestion, air, clean air, all those kinds of things. And that's why we have processes that we review on a regular basis. CEQA is a big part of it. But any given project that is discretionary, i.e. it's a new proposed project, requires a rezone, goes through a very, very thorough set of reviews. And I know everybody's not happy with that end result. On the other side, a project that's within our business park, for instance, is pretty much ministerial because it was approved many, many years ago. And that's kind of what the Gateway Frequently Asked Questions describes, is why it's ministerial. We have a zoning ordinance that's very prescriptive for certain types of zoning. These are the things you can put in. So it's a fundamental system that gives property owners rights to do things, you know, as a by right type of thing, as opposed to it takes a big public review. A lot of people don't understand the difference, and that's what this frequently asked questions sheet is trying to explain. But I understand where you're coming from, and yeah, I don't think any one of us want to have to move all the way to Nevada. The one exception of that, I guess, is Barton Hospital. And my understanding is Barton Hospital, because of the new seismic requirements the state of California has imposed, is going to move out of South Shore Lake Tahoe to Nevada.
Oh, wow.
So that's what's happening. We're losing our local infrastructure, and it isn't a long distance, but it's going to change what happens in South Shore Lake Tahoe quite a bit. So those are the things that are happening as a result of changes in California legislation. So I'll leave it at that.
I mean, all of us are under tremendous pressure by the law-making people and everybody that doesn't like the way we live out here. They want to change it, and that's why we continue to get hit from all angles. Light industry is fine. Office buildings is fine. It brings, you know, generates business for everybody without the disruption of trucks and, you know, things like that. So thank you so much. We appreciate you.
But we do have one comment online. Jaren, you can go ahead and unmute, and we should be able to hear you in the room. Well, okay. Well, Jaren, we'll have to come back to you. We're going to go ahead and move ahead. You're not here in the room. So next item on our agenda tonight, we have discussion. Department of Transportation here tonight, Director Martinez and John Kaling's here tonight. And let me switch what I'm going to put on the screen so that everybody can see. And we're going to go ahead. Oh, look, John's going first. So
Yeah.
sorry about that, John. Let me see if I can get this thing right sized. You want the Saratoga first, correct? Okay. Okay. And let me get rid of this. And let me go back to, it's hard to talk and drive at the same time. And we want this. Okay. How's that looking? Okay. Oh. I can work for you, John?
Yes, sir.
All right. Proceed. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Davey, for having me in APAC. Appreciate you guys having me. My name is John Kaling. I'm a deputy director with the El Dorado County Department of Transportation. If I look somewhat familiar, when I was younger, thinner, and less gray, I did a lot of work down here with the reconstruction of the El Dorado Hills Boulevard interchange, the addition of the HOV lanes up Highway 50, and deeply involved in construction of the Silver Valley interchange too. Tonight, though, I'm here to talk about a much simpler project. This is the project to add length to turn pockets, left turn pockets on El Dorado Hills Boulevard, and also to add a new right turn pocket on southbound El Dorado Hills Boulevard, all around the intersection of Saratoga and Park. So real briefly, it's a simple project, and engineering never want to say the word simple because it always comes back to bite you one way or another. But El Dorado Hills Boulevard, here's the freeway down here. We're up at Wilson up here, or past Serrano. Here's Saratoga, going over to Iron Point. Here's Park going into the shop, Rayleigh's. Yeah, I always get Rayleigh's and Ralph's mixed up from my Southern California years. So as you can see, we are adding a new right turn pocket for southbound El Dorado Hills Boulevard. to make a right turn onto Saratoga, to go towards Folsom. And then coming northbound, I'm sure you've noticed queuing that you see that comes out of this left turn pocket and stacks up in the number 1 lane. So we're basically more than doubling the length of that turn pocket. And then in addition to that, we're going to lengthen this turn pocket that goes southbound El Dorado Hills Boulevard into the, again, the Raleigh Shopping Center, Bella Brew, et cetera. We are looking at asking the Board of Supervisors for authorization to advertise for bids in middle of May of this year. And so the plan is to be out there later this year, sometime this summer, to start with a finish before Halloween is the goal. So that's going to be happening this calendar year. Honestly, there's not a whole lot to talk about this project. Like I said, it's a simple project. Doesn't mean it'll be easy, but it's simple. I could say that we're not going to close. Yeah, I can go through some close-ups. Here's the, so you're coming south El Dorado Hills Boulevard. Here's the turn into the little office park right here. Get past that driveway, that's where this right turn pocket starts. We'll have to do some relocation of a drainage inlet and pedestrian crossing button and a 1B pole right here at this intersection. But the nice thing is we own all the property, so we didn't have to buy anything from the business park. That makes things a lot easier for us to not have to go get right away from people. Next one, please. Here's the lengthening of the left turn pocket. We got 1, 2, about 350 feet. We're adding to it in length. And it's just utilizing the existing median. And then the same thing for the one to the south. We're not adding 350 feet. I think we're adding about 100 feet, 150 feet to it. And we're using the existing median again. So simple project from a perspective of right of way and environmental. Like I said, we're looking to get it done this year. We have a provision in the contract that prohibits the contractor from closing any lanes at all during the day. So there will be night work on this project almost exclusively. But you know, it's always a kind of a tough call for us. Do we want to disrupt traffic during the day when everybody's trying to get to work and get home and take care of their business? Or do you want to be noisy at night? In this case, we want noisy at night. So I think that's the highlights of the project. I'm happy to entertain any questions anybody has at this point. Yes.
Share screen. Okay. My name's Linda. If the changes that you're doing on the turn in from the freeway, basically northbound, right? Does that mean you're removing that all of the center foliage, all of the trees and stuff like that?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure. So then is there still going to be a divider? Is there going to be a small curb or something like that? What exactly is going to be the divider between the roadway then?
There'll be a new 6-inch vertical curb. Concrete. Welcome. Yes, sir. Oh, sorry, John. Go ahead.
I'm just trying to get you to the microphone.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, good. Yeah, hi, I'm Bill Knox. I also live in El Dorado Hills, and you may have already covered this and, you know, so this is just a point of clarification, but what I'm talking about is that whenever my wife and I, let's say, go to from Four Seasons and we go across the freeway and we turn left on Saratoga, which we want to get over to Empire Ranch. There is usually a long backup turning left onto Saratoga that extends into the ongoing traffic. Is that a part of what you're talking about here or not?
Yes, thank you. It is exactly what we're talking about, and it's exactly what this project is intended to mitigate, is to get that traffic out of that number 1 lane and store those cars in the extended left turn pocket.
Any other questions in the room?
Yes, sir.
That question, that's good on that side. So what's the plan, or the planning from Town Center northbound to 50 on Latrobe there? Because that whole choke point, it's one lane northbound, it's 2 lanes onto the freeway. What's the expectation on when we can see some kind of relief on that side? Because that's a nightmare down there. I know there's land acquisition, things that have to be done, but if you could address that, it'd be great.
Sure, thank you. I noticed you threw in the hard part, which is the word when. I can tell you that the other engineering group up at Placerville, with another deputy director in charge of that group, they are actively working on what we call the last quadrant, the last piece of the reconstruction of the El Dorado Hills Boulevard US 50 interchange, which is that, I'll call it southeasterly quadrant, which kind of comprises a big part of that choke point to which you speak. So I know that they are working on environmental right now, and we have funding to get through environmental and some design. I do not believe we have identified funding for construction yet. So it is actively being worked on to get us into a position to be ready to receive construction funding. Regrettably, I can't answer when. My apologies for that. Generally speaking, well, I don't know the exact geometrics of the improvements, but yes.
Yeah.
Yes, 2
So-
northbound lanes, and I think an additional lane for traffic, because we're gonna reconfigure the loop off ramp from eastbound 50 traffic. And you know how we got all that extra room underneath those bridges? It's all gonna be filled with traffic lanes and ped facility.
Yeah, and we had a great presentation about that. It was like 3 months ago. It was 3 months ago.
Matt, was
If
it
you're
here?
dying to watch it, it's on the APAC website. If you want to watch the video. But yeah, we did have a long talk about that. And again, the funding was the thing we had questions about. But yeah, additional northbound to try to open that up. That's, nobody likes sitting in it, that's for sure. Okay. So, yeah, go ahead. And then we've got Joel's online too, so.
Yeah, just quick question. All of this improvement is in there. It's going to be very welcome, but unintended consequences always come up. And the elephant in the room for the people that live over in Saratoga area, and particularly off, I believe it's,
Brooke.
yeah,
Yeah.
Brooke and so on. That interchange, coming down the hill, just at the county line, has continued to be an accident-prone intersection. And just the other day, last Friday, was another serious accident at that intersection. So my question here is that while we're improving the flow of traffic on El Dorado Hills and on to Saratoga, why are we not looking at doing similar improvements at Fender Avenue, where we've got a serious condition of an accident-prone design?
Oh, no.
Yeah, of course. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rafael Martinez. I'm the Director of Transportation for El Dorado County. And I can tell you that, yes, we are looking at that intersection. And I was just on the phone with CHP this week regarding that accident that did occur. As you are well aware, with any circumstance where there is vehicles on a road, there are going to be accidents. And so we monitor those accidents on a regular basis with CHP. They have the database. They are the ones who get called out, and then they notify us. And so since day one, when that intersection opened up, we have been looking at it. And we've been making sure that it has been consistent with what we expect there to be. There is a certain threshold that is called accidents per vehicle mile, million vehicle miles traveled, which is the threshold that we determine whether there are accidents going to occur at any given point, any given location. And so then we base that off of our determination of whether we need to make improvements. As Supervisor Heidel mentioned earlier, we do have limited funding, whether it's coming from the state of California or from the federal government, in terms of what we can utilize our funding for. And so then we utilize them for the top priorities, being that of making sure that we are keeping up with safety. Then we look at capacity. And so then we have locations that do have higher safety constraints, issues, hazards. And so then those are at the top of our list. Now, if something was to occur where all of a sudden we were to get, George, another 2-3 accidents at that location, that one would rise to a higher priority list. As it stands right now, that one is the first one that was presented to us. Now, I have had residents that have informed me that there have been other accidents at that location, but we don't have them recorded. We only record them when they get called into the CHP, and then the CHP notifies us. That's how we are made aware of these accidents. So as of right now, that's the only one that I have on record. But it's not to say that there haven't been more, but I can tell you that the Department of Transportation stays on top of the accidents. And in the past, we used to have this large map with pins on it, and the more pins that were at that one location was how we measured whether we needed to look at these intersections. We do have things called computers now, and they give us a much broader scope and understanding of where accidents occur. And we have a better understanding of the geometrics that need to make sure that they stay within a safe proximity of the threshold. And that one is currently under that. Now, obviously, traffic does continue to increase, and the more traffic builds up, the higher statistical probability of there being an accident. So we are going to continue to monitor that location. If the accidents do occur within the next year, 2 years, then yes, it is going to raise up to our priority zone. Now, I can tell you that there are 2 projects, one that is already built, another one that is looking to improve the corner intersection. And if they do come in, they are going to be conditioned to make that improvement at that intersection. It is more cost effective for the county to have a developer that wants to impose impacts on our roadways, for us to make them do it than us do it. It saves your taxpayer dollars for us to fill more potholes instead of building these types of improvements. So we're working with that developer, but like I said, if it rises to our priority list that it needs to be implemented, then we will take the next following steps to make sure that it gets done.
So I'm going to jump in, but Joel's been waiting patiently. He should never have stood up.
I know.
Because we'll do it on the phone too, but I know that when that intersection opened up, when the connection opened up to Folsom, that we were kind of surprised by how quickly it was being utilized.
Yes,
And so are we still doing annually, or are we on a different schedule now for the
we are
APT?
annually.
Okay, so we're looking at the traffic volume.
Yes.
And then my other question was, and you pointed out that when a developer is providing a mitigation, so I knew it before and I probably have this wrong. Are they, do they adhere to the prevailing wage, or is that?
They do have to adhere to prevailing wage, but there's a lot of other cost saving measures that they do in the construction management side of it, that still it's more cost beneficial for them than for us to do it.
All right, that was my question. Joel's been waiting a long time, so I gotta push my button. Joel, if you go ahead, you should be able to unmute.
Hi, Raphael. How's it going?
Good.
Are you going to homestead the spot between the rock and a hard place? That's not what my comment was. Where Park comes out onto the intersection, Saratoga and El Dorado Hills Boulevard. The 2 lanes are striped there, as one is a left turn lane and the other is a through right turn lane. Is this project going to take a look at that striping and possibly changing the number 1 lane to a straight through plus left and have a right turn for the right one?
This project is not doing that.
Okay.
But I can take a look at it with our traffic guy and see if it's warranted, because this will be the time to do it if it is warranted. But as of right now, the answer is no.
Okay, it would just be paint. And a lot of paperwork. And a lot of paperwork. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. It's good to hear from you. Okay, Tom, do you have a microphone someplace nearby? And gotta be green.
Now it's green.
Oh,
Raphael, why are we being reactive instead of proactive on this? We're waiting for CHP reports to rise to a certain level where we decide to do something rather than preparing for these types of things. And let me give you an example. 2006, we had a general plan. It called for a widening of White Rock, right? That was supposed to be a 4-lane road. What's happened to that? That's been, what, 18, 20 years or so? I don't know if my math is correct. But why hasn't that been done? And I know that you might say there's a shortage of money. Why aren't we increasing the amount of TIF monies that developers have to pay? I mean, you're the one that's in charge of anticipating this. You're the one that's responsible for recommending to the board that we increase these fees, that we add these projects to the CIP, and that we make sure that they get funded. And all that we hear is, yes, we're aware about a problem and we're going to do this when we have the money. Look, I just don't think this methodology from a 30,000-foot view, I don't think this approach works. I think we need to be more proactive. I think developers and businesses coming in, Gateway being a big example, need to pay their fair share, not after building permits are issued, but before building permits are issued. They need to do it beforehand, pay these monies up front so that we don't have to foot the bill, so that we have the traffic capacities that we need. We're very close to a gridlock situation down there at 50 and El Dorado Hills Boulevard. And the Gateway project's projecting 3,500 vehicle trips per day. Those aren't going to happen 24/7. They're probably going to happen with an 8 or 10 hour workday window, maybe 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Simple math said that's over 350 trucks an hour. What are we doing? What's the plan? And the reason I'm asking this is because APAC last June, they wrote a very articulate, detailed, well-studied, and I thought great analysis of what's going on with Gateway and the issues concerning that. That went to the county. The county has said squat about that. There's no response from your department. There's no department response from Karen Garner's department. There's no response to this. When does APAC get the feedback back from the county about their concerns? It's been almost a year, just what, 10 months now, no response. You got that letter, your staff got that letter, Karen Garner got that letter, and there's been no response. So in general, what I'm saying is what we're doing here in the county, we seem to be reactive and we're not proactive. And whether or not Gateway is shovel ready or Gateway is allowed ministerially, it doesn't really matter. I mean, what we're talking about is we've got 6,000 additional residents in South Latrobe. These are not projects or improvements that are in the best interest of the people here. So if the general plan or specific plan is wrong, maybe we need to take a look at that, but we need to come up with some sort of a solution which addresses the needs of the people and the revenue needs of the county. And that's just not happening. And all we do is we put ourselves into these different silos where you protect your position, we protect our position, and nothing really happens. We need to rethink this, because what happened in 2006 with the general plan down there is not the same conditions we're dealing with today. We have 6,000 more residents in that area.
Okay, so I don't mean to stop you and jump on in. But right now we're just talking about Saratoga and El Dorado Hills Boulevard. I'm gonna stick around, as a famous comedian once said, I'm gonna be here all night. So by all means, stick around. I
know you're talking about
Saratoga. The committee group is gonna be talking about their findings and their concerns. And then I'm gonna come back up and I'm gonna talk a little bit about what you just said, answer some of those questions by all means, and I'm gonna get to your Your
We'll wait
question
on
and your
that, but
concern.
just in fairness, all these issues sort of dovetail
No, no, and I
together.
get it, I get it.
That's the
And
problem.
I understand your passion and your needs are my needs. You're my residents, so I get that, and that's why I'm here today, to try and answer them to the best of my abilities. But right now, I do want to stick on Saratoga and El Dorado Hills Boulevard, okay? All right.
So we have one comment from, let's see, it's Hillary's on here. Let me see if I can get to Hillary. There we are. Sorry. Taking me a minute here, Hillary. So you should be okay to unmute. And if we're going to try and keep
Okay.
focused on this topic.
Yes, yes. Hi, John, are you gonna post this map on your APAC site?
Yes, we will.
Okay. Also, it's very hard to have walkability right now, get across for the residents to like the Rayleigh's Center. So I was just wondering if the signals are gonna be quicker, because right now you have to really scoot across El Dorado Hills Boulevard to get to the other side, to get to the Rayleigh Center. So are we going to be in the queuing of the left Saratoga Way? Are we going to be turning quicker, and therefore the residents are going to have an issue getting across, walking? Or I just wonder how that's going to work with the signals. And so people, children go to the high school, they're riding bikes across, and then there's elderly people walking across to the grocery store. So I'd like to keep that intact somehow, or easily walkable.
Thank you, Hillary. I'm going to turn to John.
Thank you, Hillary. I think the short answer to your question is yes. The traffic signal at that intersection will be entirely reconfigured. Some legs might be shorter, some legs might be longer, but the configuring of traffic signal times is a whole specialized area with which I'm not intimately familiar. But I can tell you that since we are adding the right turn lane and thus increasing the length, the distance that pedestrians have to walk to get across El Dorado Hills Boulevard, there will be more time added to the the green walking man phase of the traffic signal to allow peds more time to cross right there. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, good. We really need that, because kids go across there, people, and also the other question is when you're going southbound on El Dorado Hills Boulevard and you're making that right turn, I've seen kids almost get hit right at that intersection right there. So, people are turning right, and if there's more cars turning right, I don't know. I'm just concerned about that, just to food for thought.
I hear you. Drivers, especially, and pedestrians too, are going to have to pay attention with that right turn for sure.
Okay, thank you, Hillary.
Okay.
Okay. So I think you're off the hook now, John. But Raphael, don't move. We'll get back to you in a minute. We are going to go ahead. Let me stop. Oh, thank you. Put this here.
I have a question back
Let me
here.
move.
Yeah, does this work? Can you hear it?
Oh, Steve. Oh, I didn't see Steve. Go ahead.
I'm hard to see. I know that we spoke about just speaking about Saratoga Avenue, but I live out here off Latrobe Road where a number of us live. The street itself looks like it belongs in the city of Milpitas. Only their landscaping is better. Latrobe Road, its landscaping is awful. There's one way to fix some of this, and that's just become a city and get $5 million a year stuck in your budget rather than in the budget of the county. But one of the things that I'd like to mention, back in about, and please correct me if I'm wrong with this data, in roughly 2015, the CIP for Bass Lake, Green Valley, and Latrobe Road, El Dorado Hills Boulevard for Latrobe Road, the CIP was changed and the mitigation fees were reduced to the developers. Therefore, we don't have 4 lanes up at Bass Lake where you need them. We don't have the money to pay for this down here. We don't have the money for
And we need to put that back in place. And offhand, Raphael, I'm not just addressing you, but I'm addressing the two members of the Board of Supervisors. They have no risk in getting this fixed. And my point is, let's get it fixed, and you should be helping them get that fixed. And if I'm wrong about the data, please correct me. you.
I will definitely be addressing specifically that question, Steve, later on after we go further on down the road. Yes, I'm ready for that one.
Thank you.
You got
Thanks,
it.
Steve. Okay, so here we go. We're going to hear from our standing committees. Thank you. So let's see, I can hide this now. Again, it's hard to drive and talk at the same time. So we have two standing committees that have started work technically the end of last year, but into this year. We have an environmental standing committee and a transportation standing committee. And our chairs of those committees are sitting right next to me. So tonight, they've been working a long time on Gateway. A lot of people have been asking questions about it. Supervisor Heidel had talked a little bit about what I think Tim and I had talked about the by right nature of the project and what their entitlements, existing entitlements are. But there are a lot of questions around that. And our committee members and other members of our APAC organization have been asking about it. So I'm going to go ahead and run this past you. You guys have had a lot of discussion with DOT, with planning. And so if you want me to start here on this slide, I'll just move through them all. But essentially, we talked about Gateway, which was the Carson Creek R&D project. There's a proposal to split, is it 4? I can't remember. Is it 4 parcels into 14 or 16? 16 with some open space parcels. And originally this area, and we'll take a look at it as we get into this. This area also, it's essentially north of the Tractor Supply store. We had talked with the property owner in the middle of our pandemic, where they had talked about a possible option to develop some high density residential there and mixed use, commercial uses. Apparently that part of the project has gone away, and they've come back to what the property is zoned R&D and what the entitlements exist, and they think that they have a project to present. The parcel split is still in progress. You have seen, our committee members have looked diligently at this. There's 2 buildings that are under development there, and they're by rights buildings, so there was no public review of them. They're ministerial decisions. Building 112 and 113, if I'm remembering correctly. So they're larger buildings, 50, 60,000 square feet.
60
and
to
70.
80,000.
Okay. So they're larger buildings, but other buildings like that exist in the business park. So with that, I guess I'll turn it over. Who wants to drive first? This is the opening. Do you want to visit the opening on this, or do you want me to just go ahead?
I'll just jump in. I didn't go through that. Just as John said, particularly for those of us that live down in Heritage, we've seen the grading and so on going on. We were aware last year, probably the early part of the year, about the Gateway R&D proposal that came in. The confusion here that the submission of the application for the subdivision is called Carson Creek R&D. The entire development is being done by Pacific Trust, PAC Trust, and it is Gateway El Dorado. That is the name of the development that's currently being marketed, in the assumption that it's going to get the ministerial approval of all of the projects and so on that they want to do. And they're totaling about 1.1 million square feet of additional warehouse space beyond the 150,000 square feet currently under construction. So it's a significant project, and it got our attention, and that's why our 2 subcommittees picked this up and started looking at it. So let me talk a little bit about our environmental subcommittee here. And just to give you an idea, we're a small group. There's only 4 of us here. And we try to pull together our different expertise. We've got one person with experience, Belinda Peak, who's got some background in cultural resources, looking at impacts to artifacts, perhaps Native American inhabitants, historical properties. This was a thoroughfare for settlers coming and going to the gold country. So a lot of historical significance. So there's that expertise. We have Daniel Wang, David Wang, who has some expertise in air quality. And then we've got Jan and I that simply have a passion for understanding what's going on here and trying to put in our 2 cents as citizens and residents about what's happening around us. And so we welcome you to participate with us, join us. If you're interested, I'll get my contact information up
And
on the
Dave will pass
website,
along, yeah.
and feel free to contact me. So moving right along, our current activities focused on Gateway El Dorado, and I'll refer to the project as that as a whole. Like I say, the total square footage of warehouses, 1.4 million. It totals 6 warehouses that are currently shown on their marketing brochure as available for lease or build to suit. It estimated vehicle trips at 3,700 per day, daily weekday trips. What was not broken down in there were the types of vehicles that would be used. We get an indication of that because they broke down the busy hour traffic in and out of the facility. And that busy hour traffic seems to indicate normal incoming employees and exited employees. And we see a variation in the incoming and exiting where there's much more traffic coming in the morning and leaving in the afternoon. But those trips are only 374 trips. So the balance can be assumed to be traffic coming in and out of that facility, bringing trucks, goods, or delivery vans. So in looking at this, besides that project, there are 4 smaller parcels. One is the Tractor Supply parcel, and then there are 3 others that are commercial retail. 2 of those commercial retail parcels are identified for fast food drive-through facilities. All of these 4 parcels will utilize the same driveway about 200 feet west of Robert Matthews. So without going into more on the traffic, I want to talk a bit more about the surrounding area here. Because one of the key things in looking at environmental are the impacts on what's called sensitive receptors. That's all of us living in there. It's our children that may be in schools. It's customers coming in for retail or commercial outlets and so on. So just to give an idea of what surrounds this project, within a 1 mile radius are 12 schools, 3 churches, 4 parks and 11 fitness exercise facilities, 2 senior care facilities, 2 senior communities, totaling now over 2,000 residents. Within a 2 mile radius are numerous retail stores and restaurants, over 4,000 residents, and pending development projects, totaling another 4,000 residents, and a proposed development that would add another 9,000 residents. Now, all of these impacts need to be assessed and looked at as part of the process. And a ministerial approval process that's in place is at best questionable. Let's go next. Our concerns are, number 1, piecemeal approvals. This needs to be looked at as a whole project. It's being marketed as such by the APAC Trust, and it's important to look at the cumulative effects of this project and on other development in the area. The lack of a CEQA impact report stands out. And it stands out because the California DOJ issued a white paper in September of 2022. That white paper addressed specifically warehouse projects such as is going into this location. And it defines warehouse projects as one or more warehouses. And that's key because the following words that are up on the slide there, new warehouse projects are not ministerial under CEQA because they involve public officials' personal judgment as to wisdom or manner of carrying out the project. Even when warehouses are permitted by a site's applicable zoning or general planned land use designation. Now that specifically applies to air quality. And air quality is probably the biggest issue of these types of facilities because of the intense truck traffic and diesel particulate matter that is contained in their emissions. And so it is critical that this project, including the two buildings and the traffic into them, receive that CEQA assessment. In addition to looking at that, we went in, looked also at the biological resources surrounding that. And one of the issues that stands out there is in 2016, our development included the creation of the Carson Creek Preserve. And that development was done as a result of some issues that our developer had with some of the fill going into the Carson Creek watershed. But out of that came a U.S. Fish and Wildlife study that identified an endangered species, the vernal pool tadpole shrimp, threatened species, the vernal pool fairy shrimp, and that coupled with the incursion into the watershed led to the creation of the preserve. Now that's new information. That's something that didn't exist prior to 2016, and it didn't exist when the business park assessments, including those EIRs, were done at that time. So this new information should be triggering a CEQA review of the new buildings going in there and the new developments, and it has not. What we have seen is negative declarations rather than a CEQA, either a subsequent or supplemental CEQA review. So that's a critical thing that we identified that needs to be looked at. Second, of course, is the issue of the air quality and greenhouse gas emissions. There are numerous studies of the human impacts, particularly on children, seniors, of these warehouse complexes that we see all over California now. And to simply ignore that and proceed with a ministerial building approval is incorrect. Noise is another issue that comes up on these warehouses. The diesel truck movements are notoriously noisy. The truck and trailer movements within the site with the backing alarms, the forklift alarms and so on, the sounds of the materials moving in and out are noisy. And one of the critical things that we don't yet understand from this developer is the hours of operation. It seems as though the number of truck trips that they are assessing here are much greater than you would see in a normal business day. And we know then that nighttime noise pollution out of a facility like that is particularly disturbing, and especially those impulse noise impacts, those beeping sounds and the clanks of doors, trailers, and so on is particularly intrusive. Another area that is recommended in the California DOJ package on warehouse development is that of health risks. The diesel particulate matter has been demonstrated to affect not only the cancer, cardiopulmonary, but most notably asthma. And asthma is a rising issue, particularly for school-age children in the recent years. And to have this development go in with that kind of proximity to the schools is just irresponsible. The last item, cultural resources. The cultural resources along Carson Creek have been identified as of moderate to significant interest. In other words, we know that there was Native American settlements in this area. We know that there was historical settlers moving in and out of this area. And that needs to be investigated. And one of the key things here is that there was a survey done just prior to the creation of the business park. In 1983, there was a survey of a few sites or locations within the area there, and they did find evidence of inhabitation there. The problem was that the survey was only a preliminary survey with an expectation, according to CEQA law, that future development would go through and be assessed. And that has not occurred. And so as a result, we have a situation where we found areas of significance that were located around what was proposed to be a golf course. Only that golf course has morphed into this warehouse project now. So conclusions. We see that this project has significant impact far beyond El Dorado Hills. There's the immediate impacts of the biology, the air quality, the cultural resources, the noise, and so on. But a bigger issue gets to the very heart of what John Heidel mentioned earlier, which is the economic development of El Dorado County. And that is a warehouse project, wholesale, as the developer describes it, an industrial wholesale distribution center, does not drive major revenue to the county. And that issue is noted by the two buildings that have gone in that paid to the TIF fund a total of $500,000. Now, I know that Rafael's going to talk a bit more later on the CIP plan and a couple of significant projects that are right around this area. So keep that in mind as to just how much this project is going to contribute to those improvements. So we also asked, bottom line, that this entire facility, the retail, the warehouses, and so on, be viewed in their totality. That new subsequent or supplemental impact reports are necessary to look at the impacts on the Carson Creek Preserve, to look at the air quality as a new warehouse project is identified by the California DOJ, to look at the individual projects, but also consider the cumulative impact. And that becomes critical when assessing traffic and when assessing air pollution. And the last item is looking at citizen and agency involvement. Involving and gaining feedback to the public. Open hearings and an open improvement process is critical. We haven't seen that with the two buildings that went up. I understand the comments that it's ministerial. That flows through as a normal process. But these kinds of projects have such issues that the California DOJ has said they need to be analyzed and there needs to be more engagement with the public. So I'm going to pass the mic over to my co-chair here and let him talk about it, his transportation. Sure.
Yes. I'm Bill Jamaica. I'm the chair of the Standing Committee for Transportation for APAC. So this project got our attention right away. I became involved in APAC as part of the Project Frontier review, which scared me to death as a resident. And in looking at this project, Project Gateway, it could have literally double the traffic impact of Project Frontier. It includes more than twice as many vehicle or daily vehicle trips and more than twice the number of loading docks. Now, my background and expertise is I've managed operations for technology companies, including logistics for Fortune 500 companies. So I understand a little bit about distribution centers. When I look at these buildings, and I understand they're buildings of this size in the business park, I look at this with 42 loading docks and 6 loading ramps. That's not a storage facility. That's a high velocity distribution center. That means that explains the 3,700 trucks a day. So what the traffic committee is looking at is only the information available to us publicly, things that we've been able to pull out. We haven't had substantive conversations with the developer because they say they're under non-disclosure. We have been working with DOT to try to get in front of this, and Raphael will talk about that more. But this is a serious concern for us. Okay. Right. So obviously what we've been doing for the last several months, the team is we've been looking at this in detail, and without getting into whether it's a by rights project or not, what is currently planned is going to have significant impact on traffic. Specifically, obviously, the increased load. As George mentioned, we really need to characterize that load. Is it really going to be over 3,000 trucks a day? Over what time period? And is it going to be a 27 by 24 operation? The other thing is routing. So call it 3,000 trucks. Will go one of 3 ways. They'll either go out Carson Crossing, which bisects the Heritage and goes next to Four Seasons. It'll either go out Golden Foothill to Winfield, out to White Rock, which is through the business park, or through the Golden Foothill and Latrobe intersection, which is already impacted at a level of service D. And I guess you're going to talk more about that, Raphael. Safety. Big trucks mean more problems, more safety issues. Sight lines, the intersections that currently exist are going to be problematic for big trucks, and they're going to create a safety issue for the community. The other thing, and this was something that occurred to me late, is in dealing with distribution centers around the world in the past, there are a lot of issues with the flow of traffic and the timing of it. One of the issues that we've had to deal with, that I had to deal with personally, is complaints from neighbors with trucks parked, waiting for their time slots into a distribution center. So there would be trucks idling for hours out in front of these buildings. In my case, every distribution center I had was in an industrial area. So it wasn't a huge deal if somebody was idling their truck and sleeping in their truck all night even. That's not the case here. We don't have that situation. So we need to understand what restrictions are going to be in place to prevent that sort of congestion and noise and pollution as we go forward. So we're already seeing parking problems around other adjacent areas. And again, Raphael is working with us on some enforcement there. Those same things need to take place in regards to this project. So from a traffic committee standpoint, again, I don't want to get into are they entitled to do this thing. What I want to understand is what are the facts? What are these buildings going to be used for? What are the rules, the hours of operation, and what mitigations are going to be put in place to manage the traffic for the development that's already approved. Also keeping in mind the future thing. I agree with Tom. And I've been saying this for the entire time I've been working with APAC is we need a comprehensive traffic study that contemplates all the development in the area. So we're not surprised and we're not reactive on this. And I think we've made some progress conceptually on that. And I'm going to continue to press for that from a transportation standpoint. Thank you.
Just for clarification, while I have worked with both committees over the last 6 months and know how many dedicated hours they have, for personal reasons, I have opted to recuse myself, at least for this point. And so, again, I will not in account make any other comment except hard work, good dedication. And then on behalf of me as a citizen, thank you for the dedication that you brought forth. Thank you.
Without question. And thank you, Bob, for that. So in the room, are there questions for our, and I'm looking at our hour because we got a couple more things, and Raphael, we got them. We got to talk to them. But let's be quick with our questions. And
Lock the door.
well, you're right there. Do you have something in front of you? Here, you want?
First, I want to say, and I think everybody else in the room would agree, thank you for your work. That's good, hard work, eloquently stated, and from your mouth to God's ears, we would hope. I just want to say, I think there's a couple of things that we can do immediately. One thing, I would ask that the Board of Supervisors consider remanding the zoning decisions and planning decisions away from the zoning administrator and bring them to the Planning Commission, where we feel that we can get a clear and unbiased opinion. Number two, I think that we ought to take White Rock and Latrobe improvements. There are no specific improvements as I'm understanding them right now. Raphael may have a different opinion on, but I don't think there's any specific improvements like widening White Rock or Latrobe in the CIP. Those should be added to the CIP. Number three, monies should be allocated to the CIP for those specific projects. And if it requires taking TIF monies from other projects further up country and reapplying them down here where they've been not applied, that would also be a help. And I totally agree that this is such a huge project with so many impacts. It's not like we're processing a candy store application. This is a big deal. So we need to be comprehensive in this. But again, I just want to thank the APAC committees for that's good hard work. And I'm wanting to know also maybe if the supervisors could ask that transportation and planning give a detailed response to the letter that APAC sent almost a year ago. And I think it's a common courtesy to respond to mail that's received. These people put in a lot of time, a lot of effort into making these recommendations. They need to get a response back from the county so that we can have a dialogue. Without dialogue, nothing happens. Thank you.
So before I go around, two things for Tom, because he brings up good points. The one item is that when we talk about the CIP, and Raphael will get to it, I should delay this. When Raphael will get to it, last year when we talked about Project Frontier, and there was a project that was proposed to be added for Latrobe back to the CIP, we all kind of questioned, well, is that going back in because of Frontier? And APAC recommended, well, let's not just do that yet. So that was a project we said, let's not add it to CIP. Now we're considering maybe but I think our concern was that it was triggered by solely to benefit the project. And that's why we expressed the comments we did. And the second thing is the TIF fees, they can't be mixed. That happened in the past. And when I say past, I mean like 20 or 30 years, right? When I got here.
Three TIF zones because of the specific needs of those areas and they need to be kept separate.
And yeah. And so the thing I always think about the TIF zones, and Chief Johnson here at the fire department is very good about talking about the development in El Dorado Hills pays for a lot of things. And that's why our fire department for now but their budget is pretty secure compared to any other fire protection district. But the other aspect of that is there are areas of the county that have no development, and they're not getting any TIF fees. And so when you look at what their needs are, how are we ever going to fix those? Those are questions we need to. And I think that the 3 zones was an approach to be equitable about it. But again, I don't think, there's a perfect solution, but it's a good question to ask. I appreciate that. And so I see, oh, there's one over there. Do you have a microphone nearby?
Things I'm a little confused. Is the project already in process? Because we had some video that was going around during the rainy season where with the grading, there's a lot of pollution that's being dumped into Carson Creek. And that was just from the grading. I think that's what raised everyone's attention is what's actually going, has it been approved? Why would we be grading for something if it hasn't been approved? I'm confused where we're at with it all.
What you want?
Yeah, let me explain a little bit of the background here. This project is currently configured with, let me think, 10 parcels. So those are individual parcels. Tractor Supply is one. The other area along Golden Foothills Parkway is a total of 5, and then there's 4 interior ones. The ones that were being graded were only for the 2 buildings that are on the north side of Golden Foothills, adjacent to that stub of Carson Crossing. And those are for the 2 warehouse buildings.
Are we dealing with the pollution that's coming off of those and going into Carson Creek? Do we have some type of resolution, or has anyone environmentally, we've got footage of it. It's got the residue, the oily residue, and it's going into the creek.
You want me to talk about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, I'm sure it was done. I think I saw it Okay. But what's that?
Yeah, is it on the radar?
But the thing about runoff is that the water board solution is they come out and say, hey, what did you do? They explore it. They say, oh, you did that. And they say, what's your plan not to do that again? And that's it. Primarily, unless it's egregious and toxic sludge, having family members who have worked at the water board. So you can look up those reports that are submitted, and they have the photographs that the inspectors come out and do. But they do ask them for an updated mitigation plan for the runoff, best practices, and that's typically what happens. So we had the problem when, the Safeway Shopping Center, the Sienna Ridge Shopping Center was built at Bass Lake, and the homes were under construction. We had a rainy year. Bass Lake was mud. And my wife was working at the water board at that time, and I saw the reports, and the reports say, well, what did you do? How are you going to prevent it? What's your plan? Okay, don't do it again. And it happened like 3 or 4 times, but that's how it works. So if it's not super egregious, nobody's going to jail, and there aren't really any substantial fines.
I hear you, John, but
Yeah.
we've got 14 other parcels that are going to get graded.
Yes.
And the potential is there for that same occurrence to happen. And unless I'm mistaken, again, that comes back to DOT to approve those grading and also the runoff? Not so?
Yeah.
Okay, my mistake. You're off the hook. But yes, it's a good question
Yeah,
on
it is.
future degrading to.
People
be
go, well, how
addressed.
can that happen? Well, that's how they do it though, so.
Especially the ones that are right up against the creek.
Yeah.
The rest of those-
So let's take one more back. Come back to you next.
Real quick. It's like we're reliving Project Frontier. It's almost like we go back, the things that are brought up for this project are almost exact to what we were concerned about then. And why are we even here at this point when we defeated Project Frontier and sent them with their tail between their legs? Why are we here discussing the same stuff that is actually now worse? And to the level, where has been the oversight? Where has been the approval process? Where has been the transparency to the community? It's lack, I don't understand it. I think everybody's here feeling the same thing. And we need, and once again, APAC is doing a great job. But we need to go above that. We need some answers, valid, solid answers from our elected officials as to what's going on.
Chime in for just a sec.
Yeah, and we gotta get going, gang.
Let's-
So,
let's move
but
ahead.
good but no, those are the questions that we should be asking. Thank you.
The key question in our mind as we look through this is, as a result of going through on Project Frontier, there was a director's interpretation that was done. It was clear that these e-commerce type logistics facilities didn't have the same impact in 2006 that we are seeing now. And it points out that we've got a gap in our zoning ordinance that needed to be addressed. And there was an attempt to do that. That interpretation letter came out. It defined facility fulfillment centers, heavy distribution, and parcel hubs in an attempt to try to put some parameters around it. But what we're seeing with this project is that that wasn't an adequate description and it wasn't an adequate solution. And so that's part of what we're recommending in our report, is that that needs to be revisited. It needs to be looked at as, how do we deal with change in the zoning or the use types within those zonings to address this. And just for an example for a minute, Amazon was 2 buildings, 4.8 million square feet with 155 loading docks. It was massive. These are smaller buildings, much smaller. They're 14, well, right now they're marketing 6 of them at from 60 to 80,000 square feet. But we're looking at a total 2 buildings, 42 loading docks. That means that potentially this project could have somewhere upwards of 300 loading docks. Yeah. So, yeah, we need to have an open discourse and we need to get involved with planning, with our supervisors, and try to get this thing under control and defined so that we've got some manageability on it.
Birch? I just want to say, I think that we need to have somebody else look at the zoning determination other than Karen Garner. I think someone else needs to review that. If nothing else, a contrary opinion, push it up to the planning commission or something. She's not looking at the DOJ opinion on CEQA on this. That's not being taken into an account, and everyone here is suffering for it. So I don't mean to be disparaging, but I don't have a lot of confidence in the planning department. It needs to be moved out of there, and it's impacting 6,000, 7,000 people. So this is not something we can put in one person's hand to make a decision.
Quality of life issue. Major league.
Okay, we got to get moving though. So quick.
One
I
last
gotta back up
question.
here.
Our last review of traffic, I believe, when we were going over Frontier was 2020. We are allowing these warehouses to go in. Have we done any more traffic reports since Frontier that would even remotely give them the green light to move forward?
We put that on Raphael's list for
Yes.
okay. Yeah. So that's coming. So you've been very patient. Do you have a microphone someplace nearby? Oh, thanks, Tom. Just push it. It should turn green and then let go. There you go. Thank you.
This has to do with traffic. With what you've done and what you've looked into, the traffic patterns that will be bringing the big trucks to these storage areas, are they primarily just going to be coming from Highway 50? Because what I'm thinking of is the Jackson Highway and having trucks come up Latrobe Road from Jackson Highway. So I just want to throw that out there.
That's a good point. Good point. We didn't factor that in. We assumed that the bulk of it would be coming in from 50. but I don't think it changes the impacted areas very much. It's going to suck for the drivers for sure going down. It is.
So, let's do, we got two more right here, and then we gotta get to Raphael because our time's at 8:30, so we got more things to get to. So, do you have a microphone?
Yeah, thank you, John Davy. I have what I think is a very simple question. It's very simple because I think I've answered my own question. I was recently made aware of Gateway El Dorado just a few days ago, and I really didn't know much about it. So one day, actually it was a couple of days ago, I decided to drive down Latrobe Road towards Golden Foothill Parkway to see if I could see where it is. And as I approached that, I saw, of course, the Tractor Supply Company. Right behind the Tractor Supply Company, I saw this construction going on. So I thought to myself, I believe this El Dorado project is already under construction. And the reason I say that is I saw a sign right there that said this Gateway El Dorado project is coming soon. And I'm very pleased to say that I was wrong.
No. Could you get the microphone over here so we can hear you online? Could you grab the microphone so that people can hear you in our recording?
No, I'm sorry.
Just-
That's all right. There you go, sir.
There you go. Thank you.
I usually don't speak up.
Keep going, you're
I
good.
can't help this. This is a whole rerun to a year ago. I got my notes. April, we were talking about the Frontier Project. All right? We came away with a victory. Hallelujah. Felt good about that. And my assumption was if something else comes up, we're going to be before, we're going to get to it before it starts happening. Now, all of a sudden, a year later, this construction is already happening. It's already in place. Things are happening. What happened in a year? What did we learn and what did we not learn about getting ahead of this project instead of it already it's already happening? So my answer is, what do? Do a cease and desist, some kind of policy to stop these people? Doesn't sound like it. So I just need to know, where are we in terms of this not happening again and getting surprised? Because I'm totally surprised. My wife told me about this meeting 2 days ago. Never even knew this, and I see all that construction going on, just like the gentleman. What the heck? Didn't we take care of this a year ago with Project Frontier in Amazon? And now we're back to the same thing, except they're already digging. It's very frustrating, folks. And listen, I'm not saying what you guys are doing is easy, but we got to get on top of this stuff. We can't be late to the party.
Good comment. Oh,
Shouldn't Kevin be attending these meetings? I mean,
She was gonna be here today. She did, and she does have a DHR up in Tahoe. Otherwise, she was gonna be here today. I can tell you that.
because I feel bad for you, because you're the only one, you're the guy who's taking the heat
No,
and.
I can tell you, her and I both were planning on coming here today, but unfortunately, she had another engagement with another district up in Tahoe, so she could not be there.
All right.
okay. Raphael. As quick as you possibly can, because we're already like 20 minutes late.
I'm just saying, this is ministerial. I've done 35 years of CEQA review on state, federal projects and local agencies. I've never seen something like this. I've never seen this. One question, does this project have a SWIP? If it doesn't have a SWIP, you could shut them down.
Stormwater.
The county knows, they don't. Sounds like what we're doing. Not just a slap on the hand. I have been on jobs where they put people in jail and handcuffed them and took them away.
Yeah. So in terms of the SWIP, I thought it was part of the grading permit. I'd have to go back and look. If I try to pull it up now, I'm going to crash everything. But there's no SWIP at all?
That's unbelievable. That,
Hard, yeah.
Now, I'm not in charge of it.
I'm not saying that-
I don't know, but as you know, every project has to have one if they're gonna be working within the state of California. I'd be extremely surprised if there isn't one. I can look into it and let you guys know.
Yeah.
I think this is a good question for Karen, like you're saying, but
I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it.
thank
All right. So, move along. You have some materials for us that we could present. Do you want everything? You want to start with the residential permits? You want that on the screen?
Before you put that up on the board, 'cause
Okay.
I want to make sure I get to everything. You said I only have until 8:30?
We'll go a little longer, but there are firefighters here that might take us out. So,
Okay, all right, okay.
I'll waive it, John.
Okay.
Lock the door.
Once again, good evening, everyone. Rafael Martinez, Director of Transportation for El Dorado County. I will try and be very, very quick because I want to get to everybody's here is concerned to the best of my ability. So I want to try and cover as much as what I've heard today. But because I am not only in charge of new roadway construction, as John was mentioning earlier, land development, as some of you are all concerned about here today, but also most importantly, what Lenny started off with first thing today and having to do with maintenance. So we do have a hotline. It is 530-621-4909. As well as we have, and I'm sure you probably, Lenny, you've called that number. We do have an email. And it is road.maintenance@edcgov.us. And that actually gets it then on other people's radar, not just the frontline guys. And I do apologize for that. 2 years is way too long. I'm going to look into it. But as Supervisor Heidel did mention, we've been in a hole, literally in a sinkhole for the past 7 years since I've been here, back in 2013, 14, and 15. There was a $5 million deficit in the road fund, and that was because the state of California, long story, I've given that presentation here before at APAC. Fortunately, I've got two amazing supervisors that have backfilled that, as well as the other board of supervisors, with a $5 million contribution from the general fund to try and get us out of that hole moving forward. Nonetheless, 2 years is too long. I'm going to look into it and find out where we are. But a big priority, last two winter storms have been the major runoff that we've had has decimated our infrastructure. We've had culverts that are 50 years old that are now failing, and we've got to get to them. So safety is our #1 priority. It doesn't mean that I should be letting trees on the road for an extended period of time. So I will definitely be looking into that. Okay, moving on. The main reason why I'm here is because I wanted to talk about something that is a big concern to all of you, and that is how is growth managed in terms of traffic? I can't speak to that of the planning aspect of it, to the zoning, to the CEQA when it comes to the buildings and the private property. I can, when it comes to the CEQA, when it comes to environmental, when it comes to the planning, in terms of the traffic impacts that all of you have on a day-to-day basis. And what we do is every 5 years, the Department of Transportation goes through a major update where we look at everything. We basically take a look at all our development, all our roadways, all our infrastructure, and we say, are we in line with where we're supposed to be? And so then now, John, if you can pull up that first slide, that would be beneficial. So this looks at traffic volume, I'm sorry, not traffic volume. This looks at development that has been ongoing over the years. So back in the early 2000s, as you see here, we had over 1,400 permits per year. This is back when our general plan was being completed. And therefore, at that time, the unfortunate executors and the leaders and the planners and the engineers, with the data that they had, they made assumptions that our growth was going to continue at this pace, at this rate, for the foreseeable future. What they weren't realizing is this had to do with, a lot of this was Serrano, a lot of this well, a big portion of it was Serrano. And a lot of the simpler developments, subdivision within the county that was easily developable. It was relatively flat. It was it had infrastructure, it had planning. And so then because of that, they determined at that time that the growth rate was going to be well over 8% per year. They reduced that later on to 3%. And subsequently, now that we are in the year 2016, when it got reduced to 1%, we recognized that this was an anomaly. This was a once in a lifetime because of the fact that we had such relatively easily developable land in El Dorado County, and especially in the El Dorado Hills, which is why they anticipated that growth was going to be so high. Because they thought the growth was going to be this high, that's why, if Steve's still here, that's why they thought that we were going to have, 20 lanes on White Rock, 20 lanes on Bass Lake Road, 8 lanes on Latrobe. That's why they thought we were going to have that. And that's why, unfortunately, some of the supervisors, engineers, planners at that time did make promises to some of you residents, some of the stakeholders at that time, that yes, you will see 4 lanes, 6 lanes on Bass Lake Road. You will see 4 to 6 lanes on White Rock. But subsequently, especially after 2008, the great equalizer, when we saw that all of the easily developable land can no longer be developed, and now what we have left are much difficult, more complex projects that have impacts that need to be mitigated, that development has slowed down. And as you can see, between 2017 and 2022, it's actually been at a downward rate. Nonetheless, the Department of Transportation, in our last update in 2020, we said, no, you know what? We're going to still anticipate a growth rate of about 0.7%, although it's showing a negative growth rate. We're going to still say that we're going to have a 0.7. Now we're anticipating, it's still showing down, but we're still going to be conservative. We're still going to give ourselves a 0.66 growth rate. Now, what this does is it gives us an opportunity to then determine how much we are going to put a fee on the developers, because depending on how many parcels there are in the county and how much infrastructure is needed, that is how we determine how much a developer needs to pay into that fee act. Now, I can tell you one thing, and one thing for certain: there is nobody who wants to build roads and bridges and infrastructure in this county than either myself or that man over there, John Kaling. He loves building bridges. He loves building roads. And if it means that we can get more money out of a developer to build those roads, that's job security for me, job security for them. Now, the thing is, I have a dual mandate. I serve you as the residents. I also serve the county as an executor, legal executor, to make sure that what I do are legal and abiding by government code, state code, federal mandate regulations. And so then, unfortunately, I am sometimes the messenger, and so is Karen, of the constraints that we have. Now, some of you are saying, well, just have the Board of Supervisors change it. We can't do that. If we could, we would, and it'd be in your best interest and be in our best interest. But sometimes we can't. Now, sometimes there are, and I'm constantly working with legal and the Board of Supervisors to see how we can make sure that we find every nook and cranny under every loophole that we could to make sure that we are getting the most, whether it's safety, circulation, level of service, VMT for the residents. But we have to do it with some level of mandate, because if not, A, the state of California comes down on us. B, secondly, any developer that or property owner that has a property that says, hey, I've got a right to develop, whether it's R&D or whether it's a single family home, they have a right. And if we don't, we get sued. And that means your taxpayers dollars, instead of going to filling potholes, they go out to filling the pockets of some attorney that then sued us. So I'm sorry, I started talking and I didn't ask you to switch the next
one.
slide. So this slide talks about the growth rate. This growth rate determines how much infrastructure we're gonna have, but it mainly determines how much parcels, how many parcels we have left in the county. Now, it's a good thing and a bad thing, because if we have less parcels that are gonna be in the county, that means a less denominator. That means I can charge actually each individual parcel more. If I have more parcels, that means I actually charge less. So really, we don't want to try and be conservative one way or be liberal the other. We actually want to try and get it right to the best of our ability, because really what we want to do is find out exactly how much we should be legally being able to get from these developers as much as possible to pay for their impacts. Next slide. So the part that then is attributed to the additional traffic is the level of service that you have in terms of your delays on the roadway. El Dorado County has a general plan that mandates level of service. That means the delay, the congestion, the amount of traffic that you have to endure on a regular basis. That is ours. Now, I'd say 90% of municipalities in the state of California have now switched over to the new CEQA requirement, which is VMT, vehicle miles traveled. What they're trying to do is trying to get all of the state of California out of their own vehicles into transit, into bicycle, into walking, into electric vehicles, into electric mopeds. That works great in Sacramento. That doesn't work great in a mountainous terrain rural community such as El Dorado County. And we've been fighting the state of California ever since then on that we can't get our residents, especially if we have a residence that is mixed with age restriction, to get them to bike all the way from Heritage to Rayleigh's. I mean, come on, let's be realistic here. So we're not going, it's not going to happen, but state of California is mandating vehicle mile travel. Nonetheless, we've said, no, we're going to have a dual mandate, which makes it even harder on developers to develop. So some of you might have moved into a community and seen that you might have, let's say, a level service A, level service B, maybe even a level service C, and you see the congestion go down to a level service D. That means that, over the course of the last 5-10 years, you probably have experienced more traffic. Unfortunately, the way our general plan states that mandated improvements have to be in is once they hit this zone, which is level service E and F. So, and that is something that the voters voted on back with Measure Y, and that then got modified to Measure E. That the level of service in El Dorado County shall be that.
The better or worse?
Oh, that one's fine.
Okay.
So essentially, now, does it mean that John and I are not monitoring our roadways and our intersections prior to this level? Yes, we do this on a yearly basis. We take traffic counts. We make sure that our level of services are within the thresholds that they're supposed to be. And what we try to do is try to time when we're going to need these improvements. I do have a limited amount of resources, so I need to make sure that I don't overexpend in an area where I have, let's say, a level of service B or C, just to find out 5 years later that where I had a level of service D and E got to level of service F. So, and we have a lot of locations that are within this zone. And so then we're constantly monitoring to see where we need to utilize those funds that is most beneficial. Now, as I stated earlier, is that it is in our best interest to work with development when we know that they're coming in to say, hey, you're going to build that because you're going to take it from here to here, and that's close enough to F for me. So you're going to build it because it's going to be more cost effective for us. It saves us on time. Thank you very much for the yes. Next slide. So you guys have been talking about Gateway. I kind of felt it'd be somewhat appropriate to give my understanding, my opinion as it relates to the government code, as it relates to the Department of Transportation regarding Gateway. So currently right now, the two building structures that are being proposed are right here on this parcel. As the gentleman did say, yes, there's, I think, about 14, was it 14?
They have a.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So this is the only part that's ministerial. So what, and go to the next slide, John. So this is the specific plan that was done back, I think, in 1982 for this area. I know, 1982, are you serious? And that means the environmental document was done in 1982. That means the traffic analysis was done in 1982. That means all the impacts were done in 1982. But government code and the Subdivision Map Act prohibits us from telling them that they have to re-update that. Now, we've had a healthy discussion about how we can get around that, and we are looking into that. But yes, and we'd love to have our county council sit down with the community group to find out, the stakeholder group to find out how is it that we can get around it, because that's the way we read it. It's not the case.
But I want to make a point here, Raphael.
Sure.
Your map there, 1982.
Yes.
That is not the configuration of the business park in 1982.
Yes.
That parcel there was a golf course. So when you're talking about the historical movement of your traffic analysis and so on, those updates have to be done quickly and regularly. So let's come back
so I will get into that, because our current, and this circles back to the major update that I was talking about early on. Our major update takes into account, and I'll have to talk to you, George, about it, because it takes this entire zone that you see here gray as the capacity for all of this. If it was to get completely developed, a lot of this is open land. If it was to get developed, it has a potential for 14,000 trips, and that is in our model. We have in our model showing that a 14,000 trip capacity. Now, we have other buildings that are either bigger or larger than the two being built now. That I thought it was a 1 to 1,000 back in the day when I used to do traffic engineering. So we're anticipating that this isn't going to be any more than 1,000 trips. But I mean, and I'd like to talk to Bill more about it later on. But let's say it was 3,000 trips. Let's say it was. If it is,
that's what the developers.
And so if they're saying that, unless it truly is a fulfillment center, and when, by the way, when Frontier was here, red flags were being raised all over the place in the Department of Transportation as well as in planning. Like, whoa, we got to slow this thing down. They were trying to speed it up. We were trying to slow it down. And I was here actually talking to APAC as to there's no way under from my cold dead hands are you going to allow yourself to come into this county and build something that is going to impact the way it is. And sure enough, between yourselves and the county, we got them to realize that you're not going to be able to build something like that and get away with it.
You're not accounting for cumulative impact. What about the ridgeline development? What about wind property?
So thank you very much. I was getting to that.
They also built two warehouses already at that.
So
you don't know there's 3,000 trucks going by in their own plan. That's kind of an issue.
As of right now, as it stands, they are coming in with two building plans that is shown as either warehouse or light industrial. And under our criteria for that square footage, the impacts, we have a set requirement as to what the traffic volume is going to be for that. And so then we set it to those building square footage. And then we say, okay, well, does it meet the threshold? Yes, it does. Now, if it doesn't, if it exceeds that threshold, and I'm gonna be talking to Bill and George and probably Bob here in the very near future to see exactly what is it that the developer is saying, because from what we were told, what they're going to be developing, and from what Bill is hearing, might be two different things. And so that I want to find out more of the reality.
Who signed up on that? If there's such
But-
discrepancy between what you know, what they know, and what we know, who's signing up on something that nobody knows?
Because unlike the Frontier Fulfillment Center, the parameters were off the chart. The building was a different size, like we had never seen before. Nothing on our books, on our standards, on our policy.
Let's let him finish his presentation. I know it's relevant. You know what?
So
We're time challenged. Let him get through his presentation. We'll ask questions.
We came here for the ranch, not for this.
Okay.
I'm looking at this
And I'm trying to get to that, so let's let Raphael finish it.
So for all of you who are going to have questions, I know I'm not going to get to them all here, because I know as soon as John says, okay, you have any questions, everyone's hand's going to go up. By all means, if you go to the county's website, you go to the Department of Transportation, you'll find my email. Shoot me an email. The last time I was here, I think I got like about 20 emails from Heritage asking me, what are you doing about this? What are you doing about that? What are you doing about this? And I am more than glad to explain the entitlement process, government code, Mitigation Fee Act, the MAP Act, by all means, and what codes we have to abide by. But anyways, getting back to this. So if in the event that their traffic volumes overly exceed anything that we expected or anticipated or determined, then as the Department of Transportation, we can put a moratorium in the entire area and say, you know what, there's going to be no more development until we figure out how is it that these two little buildings took up this much traffic volume capacity in such a short time, and then nothing gets built until we determine how this came to be, and then we redo our model, and then we redo what the impacts are going to be to this area. That's how we readjust. But we'd be very surprised if these two buildings, similar to other buildings and smaller than other buildings in that area, went exceedingly over what we're anticipating. Once again, I do need to talk to the gentleman here to find out what they have. Do I have another slide? I don't think I do. Is that it? Yeah, that's
I
it.
just put them
Okay.
side by side. Yeah.
Okay, so once again, I apologize for talking so fast. I hope I got to the people in the back, but that's what pretty much, once again, if any of you have any questions regarding transportation, traffic, development, and how we determine how those impacts impact you, please reach out to me. My email is on our website. Here you go, John.
Oh, okay, but so I got two going. So, okay. So Raphael's been very generous with his time, not just tonight, but on several occasions. I know we had a discussion. Raphael recommended maybe a traffic-centric meeting at APAC.
Yeah.
It would be that would be the only thing we could do. We do have a guest speaker in April, so it won't be in April. I'll check your vacation calendar in May, but
So can I make one more?
yeah, go ahead and do that.
So we did want to let everyone know that, and I mentioned earlier that we've been having interactions with Raphael and Karen. We've established a quarterly cadence of meetings with them. So we had a meeting about a month ago. We have another one in May. So this dialogue is going to continue, and I think that as a result, it'll improve. And Raphael and I have been sharing information. So I let him know that he was going to get it tonight. So, so I expect that the level of communication bidirectionally will improve. It already has improved. So we won't see these gaps as much in the future.
Yeah. So, but Raphael said to email him, don't want to remind you, but he's always engaged whenever we have questions. So that's important. We appreciate it. We appreciate you both spending a late evening with us. And I'm gonna get through this as fast as I can. Not that these projects aren't important, but it's almost tomorrow. Well, almost tomorrow in New York. So, so we went through all this earlier. Sorry, we're out of sequence here. So generations at Green Valley. And so we have this on our agenda primarily just because this project, it was formerly the Dixon Ranch project. I think over 600 homes from memory back then. It was denied in 2017. It's back as well, it's 379, but I've also seen 361 in another document. So essentially about 379 single family residential lots, a park lot, a clubhouse, 9 open space lots, 13 landscape lots, 3 road lots for the circulation in the interior. Again, it was Dixon Ranch was a project that was rejected. They had a scoping meeting and it didn't time out with us. We were notified after our last meeting, they'd be having the scoping meeting on March 12th, which technically would have been the day before our normal meeting. We still wouldn't have been able to do it. We'd had a lot of dialogue with the developer over the since 2017. And I had emailed them probably not quite a dozen times over the last 4 to 5 months, but didn't get a response. So I did attend the scoping meeting. It was here in the building. There was a good turnout from residents in the area. They have the similar concerns to what was presented last time. So I did hear from the developer Monday night, very late, and again Tuesday morning. And he was concerned that we were going to be going deep into analysis of his project, which we're not tonight. We're just letting you know the scoping meeting happened. APAC is working with volunteers preparing a response to the scoping meeting to submit questions. They have to be in by March 26th. So if anybody has environmental focus comments on this project, there's an email address. It's on our website for this project. I think it's Generations at Green Valley. Anyways, yeah. So, but the important thing is that if you have comments to make for the scoping meeting, and it can be comments, questions, concerns that are environmental in nature, go ahead and get them in by March 26th. You know, we're working hard with volunteers here in our audience. But you know, this is a big project. It's not a little project, and we all know Green Valley Road is a challenge at best. So there were a lot of questions at the scoping meeting from residents. I'm sorry, this is the breakdown. Yeah. So. Yes. Yeah, and we had a Green Valley Road corridor study in 2014 that had a lot of those concerns addressed in it. You know, concerns even further east at the middle school and all around that area. Right now, you know, okay, so here's the thing, is that they don't have all the documents submitted yet, so doing a traffic analysis. It'll be part of the draft environmental impact report. I doubt you have anything from they don't have anything yet. The scoping meeting was the first thing. Wait, tomorrow. No, no, so the thing is that we don't have the details of a traffic analysis yet to ask them to provide a response. But those are the questions we need to be putting into a scoping meeting. You need. Okay. I understand, but the process is, you know, legally they have a right to ask, county has a right to respond, residents have a right to participate, and I hope you do. But I need to get through this and we'll go through as quick as. No, it was denied. The original. In 2017.
2017, it was denied.
On Valentine's Day.
When it was Dixon Ranch. That was the name of the project.
There was a financial impact of the county, the auditor.
So the deciding point was the auditor controller got up and made a statement that the fees being collected were basically insufficient to cover the costs. So that all the county taxpayers were going to be subsidizing this development project. being new on the Board of Supervisors, I couldn't accept that, so I voted against it, and that's what turned out.
So this project's smaller in scope. What they're proposing is a more compatible, although it's not compatible, but it's more compatible in the fact that they're talking about, instead of residential estate 10-acre lots, like most of the lots surrounding it, that they're talking about 5-acre lots as a buffer between the existing properties. And then their density would be inside their property behind the 5-acre buffers. So I understand. So, and again, all things we'll be exploring. So the things they're asking for is a zone change from RE10, RE5, and recreational facility light use to R1, RE5, that would be the buffer, open space, which doesn't exist now, and high intensity recreational facility, which would be the park space. And part of that is the SMUD utility corridor they're going to use. I got to get through this. So I'll do questions when I'm done. Okay. So they're also seeking a general plan amendment for the land use map, change from low density residential and open space to high density residential and what's PF? Why am I, it's public facility? No, I can't remember what PF, but anyways, it's a land use map change. This is what we're talking about in terms of what their proposed map is. And the outside properties would be the larger 5-acre properties to buffer against the existing 10-acre properties that surround it. They do have an EVA road that's going to go in through Highland Hills. There's a second one, I'm blanking on when that is, but they also talked about at the TAC meeting that the fire department was concerned that the road, one of the EVA roads was inadequate, would probably be going through Green Springs Ranch. But I know that the residents in Green Springs Ranch, they provided a lot of good questions at the scoping meeting about that. But I also know the Green Springs Ranch HOA has been talking with the CSD about an EVA route through the Bass Lake Regional Park, because they have one exit in and out right now. And so, they're looking for some solutions, like you talked about being able to get out onto Green Valley if a fire was happening. So one of the things that's being explored is an additional EVA route that would benefit multiple directions. If there's a fire in Green Springs Ranch, they could get out through this. Those are all things that have to be analyzed and considered. But we're really not reviewing the project tonight. We're letting you know that the scoping meeting happened, and some of the, it's important that you provide those comments, because if you provide them, they got to answer them. We might not like the answers, but they have to provide the answer.
And you got to remember, 7 to 9 months from now, there's going to be a draft environmental impact report. We're going to get 45 days by law, APAC, if we're going to make any comments to review that. That's a lot of, that's going to be a large document. If you are here and you're concerned about it, we need you to volunteer to work with us on that document. Don't rely, again, like I said earlier, don't rely on John, myself, other people up here, and other people who have stepped in for specific projects to do it. We need you to help us do it, because we cannot manage the level of projects that we are seeing in El Dorado Hills that need to be looked at with the volunteer. Remember, we're all volunteers. We don't get paid for anything to do. Yeah. We're all volunteers, and we need you to help and volunteer us and build up our volunteer corps to look at these projects. Thank you.
Yeah, and then also the reminder too, the one caveat that when we ask you to volunteer, you can have an opinion about the project. You could hate it, love it, want to burn it down, whatever. We're in the fire station, shouldn't say that. But as we review projects, we remain neutral in our approach to what we're looking at, so that when we're asking questions, it might be colored by what our suspicions or our feelings are about it, but we have to be neutral and review it so that we're thoughtful and asking good questions that can be answered. And that if there are mitigations that can happen, because if a project gets approved, even though you didn't like it, if it gets approved, if you can get some mitigations, then mine personal? No, it is on our agenda. One of them it's but info@edhapac.org. So we weren't going to really review this tonight, but we did want to let people know that this happened. The scoping meeting happened. There were a lot of residents here that provided questions. Those questions get put in. The intent of the scoping meeting is to form the basis of, how they begin the analysis, what questions should be asked, what should be included in the environmental review. it's just an extra opportunity for us as residents to provide that input. Because there are things that I might not consider that if you live down the street, you're not even next to it, but it occurs to you that it's a good question. It's a good question. So we're working to supply our comment letter to the scoping meeting in terms of some of the things we thought were lacking and some of the questions we just have about the project, environmental questions. And when, as Tim alluded, when the draft environmental impact report comes out, then it's, you know, a furious effort to go through the document. It'll be long. We'll try to break it up into pieces and then supply thoughtful questions that ask, what about? Why not? We don't think, you know, that's an adequate mitigation, or the mitigation needs to be more. Things like that. We provide those questions. They'll come back for a final environmental impact report, and then we provide sort of the discretionary review to the Board of Supervisors and Planning Commission when we say, you know, we don't know if we're on board with this, or hey, we could be on board with this if. So those are our three solutions.
And the if includes what maybe conditions of approval. If the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors are going to approve this project, what conditions of approval as residents do we think are appropriate? And that could be an additional stoplight. It could be, we could request speed limits. We can request all different things for residential projects that are different from a commercial project. So conditions of approval are things that the developer has to do and maintain going forward. I know on Salmon Falls Road, there was a question of, I can't remember the development, the one where they just, not Vineyards, the other one, where the fence. The developer wanted to put in a cheaper fence than with the conditions of approval. A resident called it out, and he wrote to the department, said, hey, and the developer had to replace all that cheap fence with the approved fence that had been approved initially. So conditions of approval are very important. And that's where it's another chance where residents have a chance to request either planning or Board of Supervisors to impose those conditions.
That
I have a
was
question.
overlooked. Okay, we got to be quick with our questions.
I'm gonna be
Okay.
super quick because it's about generations and the scoping meeting.
Okay.
So you guys are still putting your document together, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Tara had some good points.
Yes.
And then there were some I brought up too. Are you guys including that in your document already?
Harry is helping us.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but if you want to participate,
Okay, well, I
you
do
can. No, here's
want
the
to make
thing.
sure.
You can give us questions you think are appropriate. We'll go, hey, that's a great question. You could also still send yours in just because you told us about it. We will steal from anybody,
Right,
but your comments are your comments as well.
right.
So-
I just want to make sure because I never see minutes from the planning department when we have those scoping meetings. So I don't know what they factor in. And so that's why I want to make sure that our voices are represented in what APAC puts together.
Have something. Oh, you got one.
Finally, yeah.
Hey, it's you.
Yeah, I'm president of Green Springs Ranch.
Thank you.
Yeah. Scoping meeting, but they did a good job, very amicable, but the big concern, we've had, the Silver Springs development, now we got Vineyards at El Dorado, Oak Haven, they changed their name from Summer.
Yes.
That was supposed to be a joke. But what the biggest concern is initially they were supposed to put in a signal at the intersection of Deer Valley and Green Valley. Why that was recommended as part of the development? It got shelved. What happened? It took me 8 minutes. I left at 6 o'clock. It took me 8 minutes to make a left turn out of there to get here.
So on that traffic signal, you know, we saw that come up. I know a lot of residents in Green Springs Ranch made good comments to that, and that was taken up calendar at the Planning Commission when they looked at it. We looked at it, Tim and I worked on that for almost 2 years. The developer initially had said to us, I had a Zoom call with them. They said, hey, listen, DOT had advised based on the Dixon Ranch study that it wasn't warranted for a traffic signal, even though there's a COA that was in the 2007, 2006 approval. And so they assumed they didn't have to do it. And so they were asking to remove that COA. So we sent a letter in, as many people did, saying, hey, come on, COA. Are we getting something back that's similar? You can't just wave it away. So But the developer talked to me and said, hey, listen, we did not anticipated that traffic light. It's gonna cost us, you know, it's probably closer to $2 million. Almost $2 million for a traffic signal. They said to me that if we have to build that traffic signal, we'll have to abandon our project. Okay, the roads are in, the sewers are in, the utilities are in, nobody's abandoning anything. I understand though, it's a significant cost.
Yeah.
They did employ, Craig Sandberg, Michelle, Michelle Smira. They worked with us for almost a year. And with previous planning commissioner, John Mania, because we were, like, hey, what can we get? Can we get a speed zone there? Something. Speed zone couldn't justify it, right, legally. So the solution was, well, we're gonna, you know, streetlights, which in consideration that it was probably gonna get approved to remove the traffic signal regardless of what our input was.
You know, I've lived in El Dorado County for 40 years. I came here when I was 5, right? And I remember Green Valley Road used to be the back way to Sacramento.
Yes.
And now it's an expressway.
Yeah. So that's the question we will likely be including because the Dixon Ranch traffic analysis said there was no need for that. They asked to remove the traffic signal. They are putting the underground and the vault, I believe, in for the traffic signal for the controllers for the future. So that's there. It'll cost less to put it in when it comes time to put it in. The question is, will this project trigger that? There's another project proposed right next to Pleasant Grove House on the other side, closer to Brevois. It's like 40 units. There's a smaller project proposed for Bass Lake Golf Course, the old golf course. So will those things add up and make it?
Yeah, I know that, you know, that whole corridor is proposed for development. They want to keep it on this side as opposed to the eastern side. But they also have to put in the improvements.
And then, well, you don't have to answer, but it'd probably be a board item. I'm hoping your HOA supplies some comments to the scoping. Okay.
I was there and they got a stack
Okay.
like that.
Okay, that's important. All right.
Thank you.
So.
We will look at it. We will, when, we 100%, we will look at it. When they submit the traffic analysis for it, we will look at it and scrutinize it to make sure that, yes, it meets our standards. Most definitely. I will.
So with that, you have one? Go ahead. Yes.
Open, people will die. Kids.
It has to be blocked only the fire department.
And the fire department.
Maximum, I mean, maybe
Yeah.
anything.
They will block it. And I'm
The one thing I wanted to ask.
Yeah, you have it?
Is El Dorado County mandated to lower the carbon footprint?
Well, I know the VMT metric for in CEQA now replaces the level of service. That's an intent to get people out of cars. And that's, I think, what the approach is, but.
By adding more residents, obviously.
The answer is yes. It comes
Okay,
through
great.
CEQA, greenhouse gases, yes.
Perfect. So if we're adding 400 homes or whatever, times 2.5, 3, whatever it is, we're already adding more carbon footprint to El Dorado County's environmental impact, which that's just the tip of the iceberg. And then what's gonna happen is the environmental impact goes up, every resident would get rations, you can't go this, you can't do that, you can't use the water. So this is the main thing that's an issue for us, on top of traffic, having access to Aberdeen Lane, which is total residential, no sidewalks, kids playing into the streets.
Street lights.
You know, these are things, but we are so grateful to you guys. You're amazing.
So, but come and help us. We got a couple more things to get through. I gotta get something done. The El Dorado Hills specific plan, mixed use essentially around the Village Green Park there, around the Park and Development Building, it's commercially zoned. At the time in the 1980s and 1995, there was not a mixed-use zoning or application in our commercial zones. They've subsequently added that to it. They're asking to incorporate that into their specific plan so that they could have mixed use, which means probably some residential along with the commercial that's already there. There's a TAC meeting on April 15th. I did talk to Kirk Bone the end of last year, and he said he would come and talk to us about it. So there's that. And there's we've already seen all this about how they want to do that. Public meeting comments, you can send your emails into edhapac@comment, edhapac.comment@gmail.com, Monday before our Wednesday meeting. And our next meeting, April 10th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. back here in this room. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. With Bob's good suggestion, we are adjourned.